Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is someone with a really unique mix of experience. I'm talking with Christina Stathopoulos. She has worked at Google, teaches at universities, builds courses, advises companies on AI strategy, and then somehow still finds time to read a book a week. We talked about a lot of things, from her move from data engineering into teaching and consulting to why so many companies still struggle with the basics when it comes to data and AI. She also shared how she works with leadership teams, why soft skills like communication are underrated, and how regulation in Europe regarding AI could actually slow things down here. If you're in tech or thinking about how to build something meaningful in this space, I think you'll get a lot from it. So let's dive into this podcast. Well, let's head right into it. Let's talk about a few things that you're working with. Like for me, it's when I saw you the first time on LinkedIn, you were more into the data scientist role. It felt like you were like working as a data scientist, talking about your opinions about the whole topic, but that changed over time. Right. So what are you up to right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I call myself a data and AI evangelist. I think that's the easiest way to group everything that I'm doing into one, I guess, one role, one title. But what I'm doing, I would say, is like a mix of training, upskilling, product evangelism within the data and AI space. And then you could say like strategic consulting as well, but it's a mix of all these different things. I'm a professor. I'm developing online courses. I help host a podcast. I'm a co-host on a podcast. So I'm doing a lot of different things. It's not easy to just say I'm doing one thing.
Nice. About the courses, how are you tackling this right now? Because
The
with AI,
courses?
a lot of
Yeah.
stuff has become so that it's very easy for people to get the basics from ChatGPT or something. Like, how are you tackling this?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that ChatGPT, those types of tools can help you to a certain point, but a lot of things, I mean, at least even as me, like as a learner, I learn better with the human touch. So I think humans can still bring like that personal element to it, the storytelling, what sticks. Because, for example, like ChatGPT, let's say that you don't want to read a book, okay? You want to learn about what is contained in a book. Technically, I guess you could upload that book, the PDF of the book. You can get ChatGPT to summarize it for you, and there you go. Now you don't have to spend 10 hours reading the book. But what's been found is that those messages don't stick with you. That little summary that ChatGPT outputs to you, as good as it might be, it's not going to stick. So I'm still a big believer in those older methods of learning because I think they stick. When it comes to a book, when it comes to sitting through a course with a professor, or taking an online course, whatever it may be, I think those messages they stick more than what you can get from AI. It doesn't mean you can't learn from AI, and I still use it to help me, to do my work, to justify ideas and things. But I don't think it's like it's gonna solve this problem of making learning easier because it doesn't. It just doesn't stick the same way.
Yeah, I think it's a good helper, especially for like
Yeah.
hands-on stuff where you can quickly ask, I'm make
Oh, for like
a
coding,
mistake here. Yeah, I'm making a
it's
mistake here and
fantastic.
this.
Yeah.
But I think you're also more experienced in the in-person training, right?
Yeah.
And that is a lot different than creating an online course.
Yeah, I do both. I mean, I do online, like recorded online courses. I do live online courses, and then I do in person. And I mean, of course, I always recommend to everybody if you can, in person is the best. You just can't replace that with the online environment.
True, true. Congrats on
Yeah.
the LinkedIn course, by the way.
Thank you. I have a new one coming out. It's not published yet. We're almost there. It's in post production, but it's
Oh,
going to be out very, very soon.
okay. Can you tell us a bit what is it about?
Yeah. So I've been working with LinkedIn Learning for a while now. I already have 4 courses in their library. I have 2 on analytical thinking, and then 2 on SQL for non-programmers, actually. And I just filmed a 5th one on a completely different topic, which is data visualization,
Ooh.
but more from a design, like a design perspective. So not a hands-on course, It's actually more tackling like, how do you do this? How do you do this correctly from a design perspective? Yeah, you'll see. I don't want to reveal too much until the launch, but that gives you a good idea of what it's going to cover.
But trust me, I have seen a few worse or a few terrible
Yeah,
visualizations in my time. So
I'm trying to prevent that from happening.
yeah, it's funny sometimes in these larger companies. Sometimes the higher up the people are, the worse actually the stuff gets.
The visualization.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's like,
Oh yeah.
okay,
I've seen like even like a PhD. I've seen PhD like submissions and thesis and presentations with horrible data visualizations. And these are like very, very educated people. But it's one reason why I did the course, because I found that actually a lot of people, even in the data world, but especially in business too, but a lot of people go straight into that kind of stuff hands-on. So whether it's visualizing in Excel or with Python or with Tableau, whatever you're using, you usually jump into it directly and, working with your data there. And you never actually cover the fundamentals of correct data visualization and design and how psychology plays into this and color theory. So most people skip that completely, which is really the idea of my course. It's to cover all those fundamentals that everybody jumps straight over. And that's why they end up making these quite simple mistakes when they're visualizing data.
Data. When I hear this, I immediately have to think about when I worked on the website for my academy.
Yeah.
I think I'm also notorious of bad design in that area. So,
but you're a data engineer, like that's that I can. It matches.
Exactly.
Like you gotta. It makes sense. It's not. It's two very different worlds. But I think with the right training, you can learn. You can learn these types of design theory that will help you have that more design oriented mind.
Yeah, design oriented. That fits very well to the topic. Like, you're coming from the US and now you're living in Spain, right?
Yep.
Is there a shift that you see? Like, is there some, from a mentality or from a design perspective?
From a design,
a big difference.
I don't know if I've noticed like a design perspective. If we're talking about design, data visualization, data storytelling, I don't know that I've noticed something different in that. If we look at like the broader landscape of data and AI, taking a step more back, I think because I'm very lucky that I get to work with people all around the world. I'm based in Europe now, but I work with a lot of people back in the US. I work with all around the world pretty much. But the biggest difference I think I've seen is just when it comes to maybe like the mindset around regulation and ethics, actually. So, and this is probably, it should be quite obvious because Europe is always the first one to regulate when it comes to data protection and privacy, AI regulation. But people do tend to talk about it more, or it comes earlier in the conversation versus in the US, where it's very much focused on innovating and staying ahead. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, of course, but me being in Europe now and witnessing this, and now actually one of my specialties is responsible AI. I've taken a lot of time to understand and dive into this field. I think that's the biggest difference I notice between the two markets.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think.
Do you notice that too? I mean, I know you're in Germany, so you also have maybe a more highly regulated market, which like I said, it's good and bad. But
As a German, you're always very skeptical. And you're always abiding the rules. And so, but yeah, it's here I'm more of the libertarian guy in this direction. Like, I think we have too many rules. And we're taking it like, it's very difficult to bring something to the market here, to abide to all the rules, to get certified and whatever. I think we make it too difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to innovate in that kind of environment. And I see the same thing living in Spain. Having a business in Spain, me being a business owner, being off on my own, there's a lot. It makes it very, very hard to want to innovate in a market like this. Where in the US, they'll make it as easy as possible because they want to have more of this innovation and entrepreneurship. So on that end, it's not great. But on the other end, from like when we talk about like AI and data, the development of it, taking care of the people, the citizens, the residents, that also has its benefits too. Like Europe likes to look after their citizens in a way, and other markets like the US are less so. They would rather we innovate and then we figure it out later. How can we regulate this
That's true.
or not?
That's true. They are very quick to innovate, but the actual user gets left behind. Like, who cares?
Yeah, they can
Yeah.
suffer because of
Yeah,
that.
so that's also not good. I feel
Yeah.
sometimes with the EU, we are a bit too quick with regulation, also
Yeah.
from the US companies, so that because they have an advantage, they have the big venture capital, they have all that freedom, and I sometimes feel like they're trying to limit them to come over and just
To move from the Europe
yeah
to the US,
from
right?
the US to Europe,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then just take over everything. I sometimes
Yeah.
feel a bit like that.
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, I think we're living in very, very complicated times because if we have this discussion about regulation, the problem is, I always say this like in my trainings and my courses, is that we're trying to regulate AI with borders, but AI doesn't have borders. So if Europe wants to be the first to jump on it, which is great to protect the citizens and so on, okay, that's fine. But AI doesn't have borders. So if you regulate it in Europe, it doesn't mean that the US or any other market is going to follow suit. So it gives them a chance to get ahead of Europe, which has been a big debate when Europe recently launched the AI Act. There's been a lot of backlash saying that this is going to be detrimental for the innovation of AI within Europe. So there's people on both sides. I think what we need to find is a better balance. It's not about over regulating, which we could argue that maybe that's what's happening, over regulation in Europe. Maybe if we could find a more balanced approach and also a more coordinated approach across markets, because even like, of course, we know that China is a big player in this too. We haven't talked about China as a region, but you'd be surprised that even China has some very interesting approaches to regulation. They were one of the first. It was about a month or two ago, but China announced this regulation that they have for generative AI, which I don't think we have done anything similar even in Europe or the US. But they found a way to start regulating generative AI in a way that minimizes the spread of misinformation and disinformation, which I think is like you wouldn't think about it, that you can learn from China on regulation, but China has done some really interesting approaches that I think even Europe can learn from them and move forward with it. It's a good balanced approach what they've done. So I think that's the key. It's finding balance.
Yeah, I I have to agree on this. That's like the balance is very important because oh man, we're going into this rabbit hole because
Oh, well, I could talk about this rabbit hole forever.
because a friend of mine, he's working with machine data and he's working on analyzing
Yeah.
the machine data, and he said
Uh-huh.
they have the problem because they're also doing machine learning on top of the data, and they are basically finding patterns and regarding the amount of data. With the new AI Act, they actually begin to fall into these categories of high risk systems, although it's not really a high risk system. And so that is for them very complicated to see this actually go through and to be actually compliant to this.
And I wouldn't be
the,
surprised if some
regulation.
companies, if they're agile enough, small enough, they can get up and move. If it really puts a blocker on their business, there's nothing stopping them technically from getting up and going to another country that lets them develop that technology more freely. And that's the risk that Europe will have if they overregulate.
But the interesting part is that just EU or not EU, it's also about individual countries. I find it always very interesting that when I look at data engineering, and I think it's with data science and AI the same, maybe you have seen this as well, like the Netherlands are very strong in this. They are
Yeah, I would say
compared to
the
us.
Netherlands and Belgium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yes.
what they're doing there. But they are like if the company structures are better, if the rules are better, or if
The
there's generally
mindset.
exactly
I
if
don't
it's the
know. Yeah.
mindset, I don't know.
I've noticed a pattern out of Netherlands and Belgium. And I work with different people, clients, companies out of there, and they
Yeah,
are doing quite a lot,
interesting.
I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We were already talking about patterns that you see. Nice. I had that on my imaginary list. Yeah. What else? What
Well,
else are
I
you
like
doing?
this rabbit hole, by the way. I always love to get into the rabbit hole of regulation and ethics discussions because I think it's so interesting.
Yes, it's. Always feel like if we go too long on that kind of a topic, it
Yeah,
gets either frustrating or infuriating for people to hear this.
well, everybody's gotten our advice on this or our thoughts. It's the
Yeah,
key is balance, I think.
yeah. I tend to look at the bright side. That like
Yeah.
this whole thing is changing so much. The whole AI topic, it's crazy for us
Yeah.
engineers.
Yeah, I know. For data engineering, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Everything just how fast you can move now, how much work you can get done. It's
Yeah.
incredible, I think.
And also, the interesting part was last week, or was it that the week before? I had a live event with a company, Ultimate AI, and they're basically having that system that you say, oh man, this pipeline is broken, and then it goes and it automatically collects all the data from certain tools and gets it back, and then analyzes all that, and then gives you basically a fit, or not a fit, a fix for the problem. It says,
So like
okay,
diagnoses and
yeah,
fixes the
it does
problem.
diagnosis, and it does immediately say, okay, this could be a solution for this. And it's like, when I started out, I needed to get this from here and get this from there, and so it's going to change.
Maybe you didn't know, but I started as a data engineer too. I was
No,
a
I
data
didn't.
engineer. Yeah,
Didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. I was a
Okay.
systems engineer for a little bit at SAS Institute, and then I moved over as a data engineer at Nielsen. So I
Interesting.
originally began as a data engineer. So I can
Okay.
relate to these topics, but then I shifted more into like data science and data analytics.
Why? What made you make that switch?
Why? Good question. I like all of the options. Like I like data engineering because I loved like solving problems. I love like you mentioned, something
Yeah.
breaks in the pipeline. I actually loved solving a problem like that. There's a problem, we got to get to the root of it, figure out what's going on. I thought, it like feels like you're like a little detective going through all the systems trying to figure out what happened and how you can fix it. So I actually loved doing that. But then made the shift more into like data science, data analytics. And I think that shift helped take advantage more of my side that is good with like people. So with when I was doing data engineering, it was more like back office. I was working with the data systems, the databases, the pipelines, and I'm good at that. But I'm also good at like communicating, telling stories, and I didn't get to do that very much as a data engineer. So I tried my hand more on the data science, data analytics side, and that I got to do a bit more like in front of clients, presenting, explaining things, telling stories, convincing people to do things because of what we found in the data. So I think that was what pulled me to that other side.
Interesting.
I still like data engineering though. Like I wouldn't mind going back to it necessarily. It's just that now I like to work with people as well, not just
Yeah.
data.
I I actually like this, not having to work with people sometimes.
Yeah, it's got its no, it's true, it's true. It's got its downsides, which like when I'm developing courses, I can sit more
Yeah.
like back office and just be by myself with my
Yeah.
thoughts.
That
So I can
that's true.
still like block myself off from people when I need to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But the other thing is, you mentioned this with companies. You're working with companies with your own company, Dare to Data. You're working
Yeah.
basically with companies that they make better use of data, or what are you doing with them?
So I'd say, again, I'm doing a lot of different things. So what I'm mainly doing with companies is definitely a lot of upskilling and trainings. Just because I have that, I guess like one of my strong points is teaching. I'm also a professor, and one of my strong points is teaching. I'm quite good, I think, at explaining topics, breaking them down in ways that anybody can understand, even when we get into technical topics. So I do a lot of that. And especially it's been a big request when it comes to like management and directors in a company. So I've done some for like more technical teams too, but a lot of my requests come from companies that are wanting their management and directors to get on board and understand how they can do like value identification. So when I say that I do training, upskilling, maybe with a touch of like consulting too, but when I say consulting, I'm not saying from, building a project long term, getting it up. I'm talking more about strategic consulting, value identification of use cases, and that would come more from like the management director level. So I do a lot of that, and then I do the course development, like I mentioned to you. I'm a professor, podcast, product evangelism, I call it, working with companies to help them bring their products to market, and promotions, media coverage at events. I mean, I could just go down a long list of different things I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, so much stuff. But I think one thing, like you said, training for leadership and in this whole topic, like what is it that they're missing? Because when I think back about when we started in the company with the whole data science, and we didn't start with engineering, right? We started with data science because we had a problem and then we wanted a solution. And that was something so new that actually people didn't really know, what is this? What's the benefit of it? Like, is that still the case with data in general?
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised, because remember that a lot of my clients for the like training and upskilling, a lot of those requests come from like non-data companies. So yes, I work with like data AI companies who are focused on that. That's one world. And then you have this other world, which is, it can be retail companies, it can be manufacturing. Their core DNA is not built on the back of data and tech. So, and they've known for a while that they need to, they need to make use of their data. But maybe they've done so slowly. And now with everything happening in AI and everybody talking about the hype of AI, now they're really they're realizing like, hey, we should have done this a long time ago. Like, why do we not have our data in order? What are we doing about AI? So you'd be surprised. They're still quite confused. And also you have that problem of this like overhype behind AI or generative AI. And I think it makes it even harder for these types of companies to distinguish like the real from the noise. And I think that's where a lot of the requests are coming from, because they just can't figure out like, what is noise? What are we actually supposed to be doing right now? Because the market is so overcrowded with everything going on.
Yeah, there's this meme where like they sell me this pen meme, and now
which one is it?
Now they say it's AI powered or something, right?
Yeah.
I find it very difficult to actually look behind the noise and see what's more of it's ready in 6 months to a year, and what's ready now. I think it's super difficult.
Yeah. And just understanding like what is actually useful for your company. I mean, it's not about jumping on the wave of AI, because everybody's talking about agents, for example. Everybody's talking about agentic AI right now. Yeah, but take a step back and understand like, what do you actually need for your business right now? It's not what everybody else is doing. Take a step back first and understand like what is your business need right now, and how does this link into like your business problems, your business processes.
And how does this usually impact the decision makers? It sounds like they're bombarded with all this AI thing, all this agentic AI and so on, but they don't really have let's say, a good foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Working with data.
They don't have a good foundation. They need a good foundation to understand like the landscape, so that they can, moving forward, use critical thinking and be able to better distinguish the noise from the reality. So I think it's a lack of like foundation. And then maybe also a lack of, once they have that foundation, how can they run like value identification exercises? How can they apply that foundation to their business and locate where the value actually lies?
How do you start with this normally? Like with the data or with the business value? Like
No,
what's
well,
the...
business value is pretty early. Yeah. No, I think the first thing is what I call awareness and sponsorship. So the first step is awareness throughout the entire workforce. And then I link sponsorship to that because awareness is particularly important for the management and director level, because they are the ones in charge of budget allocation, deciding which projects move forward. So that's why awareness, sponsorship. From there, yeah, you need value identification exercises. And then, of course, at some point, you've got to talk about your data, because you need to analyze. That would go into like the value identification for me, which is understanding your data maturity, understanding where you actually are right now and what's possible. Because if you're way, way back, you're not going to be making these like big jumps into more advanced applications. You need to first get your data ready and make maybe these baby steps, quick wins, and work your way up to something more complex.
Yeah, because otherwise you can't really use AI. Right? If your data is not in order, if everything is in silos and nothing is connected, then
you have a problem. Yeah, you have a problem at the root. Maybe you can use some like generative AI tools available on the market, but anything linked back to your data, if you don't have your data organized, figured out, then you have a problem. Yeah. That's why we got to call the data engineers like you. Come and fix it.
For the doing part, yeah. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
From my side, of course. Yeah. What else do we want to talk about? I mean,
I don't know.
We could go. I want. It feels like I want to ask you about your company, but I feel like we're almost like we already talked a lot about this.
Yeah, I think you got a good description, and I just do a lot of things. And if anybody asks me, for example, like, tell me about a typical day for you, this is the hardest question for me to answer, because 2 days are never this. There's no 2 days that are the same. I'm always, I like it because it keeps me on my toes. One day I might be focused on content creation. The next day I might be flying, out to Greece to give a talk. And then I might jump over to London, like there's a lot of travel involved. And then when I'm home, it's a lot of, which I'm home now, there's a lot of like concentrating on projects and course development and content creation. So I'm just keeping myself on my toes all over the place. And and I would add, and because you're also off on your own, but I think that it's interesting, the view that you and I and others that are datapreneurs, that I like to say, off on our own. It's really interesting, the view that we have in the field, because I left Google to do this. I was working at Google and Waze, a really comfortable, stable job. I was actually really happy at the time, but I decided to leave it off on my own. And one of the biggest worries I had, and I don't remember the last time that you also were maybe in the corporate world, but one of the biggest worries I had was like losing touch with that corporate environment. Like at Google, for example, and Waze, I had my hands on an amazing amount of data and these amazing systems, and I could do incredible work. And now going off on my own, I don't have that anymore. I don't have like, that first touch with these types of systems, environments. So I worried about like, I'm going to get, I'm going to lose this hands-on experience. I'm going to get too disconnected from the data and AI world. But I found something interesting has happened over the last couple of years, which is that, yeah, I mean, I lose that view of working directly in the company, but now actually I have a wider view and a wider perspective of everything that's happening across the field. So when I was at Google, I was very like pigeon-holed within that Google environment. So yeah, I might have been good at these specific things that I was doing, but I lost kind of that sense of what happens outside of the walls of Google. Now that I left, I get exposed to working with all sorts of clients, all sorts of tools. And so I've like widened my focus. So my hands-on has like a different, now my hands-on and just my experience has widened a lot more. And I feel like I know a lot more about this space than maybe I did at Google, where I was very focused. I don't know if that makes sense or if you've experienced something similar, but it's a very like unique position for us to be in, to be able to see the field from outside,
Yeah.
or not
Yeah.
outside. We're still in it, but to see it from outside of the corporate walls.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was different. It was 4 years ago when I
Yeah.
quit my old job, but for me, it was because I felt miserable. It was terrible.
Ah.
It
Okay.
it was so bad that even my health got worse and worse. And
Okay.
then
Yeah, you had to get out of that.
I had to get out of there, and luckily, I made that switch to teaching,
Yeah.
to looking into interesting topics, and following the whole AI topic. I think I'm a bit the same regarding now I'm out of the corporate world. Am I missing something? Like, am I no longer on the pulse of what's going on? But for me, it was actually very beneficial to being able to learn all these things and not being stuck at a certain tooling, a certain
certain
system.
ecosystem.
Yeah, ecosystem. And I'm getting a lot of like new ideas from working with students, from creating the courses, from doing the coaching, and always new problems that they're coming with, or that because I often also have people that are working within the company and they have problems and they want some mentoring on it. And so for me, that's also very beneficial. And as I said, it's something different to look from the outside in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Exactly.
cool
So it has its benefits, which I didn't quite see coming, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think were the most underrated skills that people
For the data AI space?
Yeah.
I think underrated skills. You got hard skills and soft skills sides. So underrated might be, probably not a surprise, I'm going to say SQL. I teach courses in that, but SQL definitely. It's just a very powerful language. It's very accessible. It's intuitive. So SQL for sure. Even I would go back to something like spreadsheets. I know this sounds very simple for us data AI people, but remember that spreadsheets are very accessible to the wider audience, business audience. And also with AI now being incorporated into tools like spreadsheets, it's making it easier for them to do more complex operations, even on a spreadsheet. So that would be more like the hard skills side when we talk about underrated. And then I also think we kind of forget the importance of things like critical thinking, problem solving, and then communication, especially communication. I think that would be probably the most underrated. Like when I'm a part of like data AI programs or at the university, I see they don't spend that much time on things like communication, storytelling. But I found that being in the corporate world, that's what sets you apart. For most people, if you really want to move forward in your career, you need to learn how to communicate well, how to express your ideas, to not be afraid to speak in front of a crowd. And if you can do that, you're setting yourself up for more for success. And we just don't really focus on that in a lot of data AI programs, which is a pity.
Yeah. True. What I've seen with my students,
well, I will say maybe data engineering is a little different. At least when I was in data engineering, it was very like focused on, fixing the problems. But maybe you're going to say this, like it's still important for you to be able to argue that to your stakeholders, like the value that you brought, right?
And also asking the right questions or asking good questions.
That's
because true. Like it's not always the technical stuff that is the important things. It's you get from the business side some requirements and that might not be super clear, and sometimes people just get on with it and just okay, we're solving this instead of just going back and asking, and do we really, like, is this really what you need? How did you mean this and that? And I think that is a super important topic that a lot of engineers miss.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, anyway, if you're an engineer, you still have a manager, a director, usually to report up to. And when you need to argue what you've done, you got to use communication there.
Yeah, or if you want something.
Or if you want something, yeah.
I mean, you touched on the spreadsheets topic.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm just going to tell you because I have that in my mind for a few weeks now.
What do you
Is
think?
why can't we just have a new way of working with spreadsheets? Like
In what sense?
spreadsheets, I feel like we need a new Excel that works with big data, that works with like
I
that's not
think
limited.
there are tools. I mean, I was trying one the other day. I think it's like quadratic or something. I don't
I don't
remember
know.
the
Like
name.
it, but the thing is, it needs to
Yeah.
for the leadership or for the stakeholders, it needs to feel like just like Excel.
Yeah.
So somehow,
Look at quadratic. I was just trying it the other day. I've only played around with it a little bit, and I think there's other solutions on the market too, but quadratic is called the AI spreadsheet.
okay,
And it does feel like Excel or Google Sheets, but it's like with more power and more AI integrated. But
interesting.
I 100% agree with what you're saying. I don't know if Excel or Google Sheets will evolve into the tool that you're talking about to handle massive data and to make it easier and use AI, or if we're going to see it from some other niche player that comes and takes it over. But quadratic is one that I was just playing around with the other day to see what it could do. It was good.
Interesting. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to check that out because, like, how often have you seen the meme or the discussion? Like, okay, they said we need this all on a real time dashboard, and at the end it gets exported to Excel.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because
Like,
it's true.
so
It's true.
why can't we figure that out to forget about BI tools, forget about dashboards, try to make this work in a spreadsheet format
Yeah. No, I
somehow?
agree with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. You're right.
I feel that that could be a really cool thing.
You might be onto something here, Andres.
Yeah, yeah. How nice of you to say. You don't have to say this because it's my podcast. You can say it. Terrible. um, yeah. One thing I've seen you a lot is books,
Yeah.
running a book challenge all the time. So what's up with the book challenges?
This is something that I started years ago, but the idea was just that I read a lot of books. I love books, and I started sharing about it on LinkedIn, like sharing the books that I was reading and summaries and what I recommended to people. And people caught on to this. What I created was the book a week challenge. I also have the book a month challenge. The idea of it was to encourage people to either really to pick up a book every day, even if it's just 5 minutes. Pick up a book and read. And the book a week challenge is to try to finish a book every week, or the book a month challenge, which is a little bit more accessible, is try to finish a book every month. I think there's no excuse that somebody can't finish just one book a month. And so I read a lot. And when I say I read a lot, it's not that I'm only reading data AI books. I read a lot of those, but I also love to just read all sorts of things, like to change around the genre, the topic, and get exposed to different ideas even outside of my field. So that's the idea of it, to encourage people to pick up a book. Also, a part of it from my side is more that I encourage people to pick up a physical book, because when I started doing this more intentionally, the idea was for it to force me to disconnect from electronics, because I was spending too much time on my computer, my phone, the TV. And by physically picking up a book and reading, I disconnect from all those screens. So I encourage to say, I know a lot of people like audiobooks and digital books. I don't do those because of that reason. I think it's a great way to disconnect and
It's
learn
also
in the process.
it's also the haptic feeling of actually having a book
Oh
and
yeah.
reading it, right?
And they say the ideas stick better. That feeling and the smell of the book, for some reason, all of that I don't know, the physical touch helps with the reading process and helps the messages stick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
Do you do physical books or digital books? Be
Not that
honest.
much.
Be honest.
I have to say I'm not the big book guy.
Oh
Like,
no.
oh no,
Oh no.
I'm more of the video
YouTube
or
videos, maybe? Yeah.
YouTube videos or playing games. Nowadays I don't have time anymore, but I'm working on a few mini games for students so that they can
Oh,
actually go in, and I have 4 actually on the website where they can go in and they can see a streaming pipeline, and if they change how many messages get published and stuff changes, and they can see, okay, now we have a lag in Kafka. Why is that? And like that kind of
Interesting.
stuff to just try it out. I think that is for me that's why.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. Not
But
everybody has to be a reader, but
no, I usually use books for okay, I have a problem. Let's get a technical book on something and then figuring
okay.
it out in the old days.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
But also, it's why I say this is interesting. This fits to what I have seen from friends and family. There was a time when everybody wanted to get one of these ebook readers that didn't have like a display, but it was more like a digital paper display.
Yeah. But those are not, I mean, no.
I think nobody uses them anymore or throw them away.
I mean, I had a Kindle and I gave it to my husband. I was like,
So is he
not
but
gonna.
is he using it? Is he still using
He
it?
uses it a little bit.
Okay.
He's not as big of a reader as me. He definitely used it some, and especially when we would like go on vacation, he would download a book there and read it, and I would be the crazy one that would pack like 5 books in my suitcase. But I still preferred that over downloading books on a tablet or Kindle.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's something different. Let me quickly think.
What else you got for me?
What else did I have?
Do you want me to recommend a book?
Yeah,
I can recommend a book.
It's a very good idea.
Okay, since we're talking
recommend a
about
book.
books, and I can talk about this all day. You can't see it on the screen, but I always bring some books next to me when I do a podcast in case I'm going to talk about any books. But I brought one today that I thought would be different and interesting for our listeners, and it's one that I've been reading. I'm actually reading like multiple books right now because I don't know why I'm all over the place reading multiple books. But one I'm reading right now is this one. It's called Material World, a substantial story of our past and future.
I switched your camera around.
Yeah, so people can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it the right way. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It has nothing to do with data and AI actually, but it talks about what is it? The six elements that we cannot live without. So sand, iron, salt, copper, lithium, and oil. And how and it goes through like the supply chain of how we extract all these materials, and then what we use them to build. And then what it's arguing is pretty much that this is so much more important than even like everything happening in data and AI right now. Is our geopolitical future is going to be a battle of who can control these elements, because we cannot live without them now. Even something like data and AI, one of the most fascinating stories in the book was going through the supply chain of building a chip and
Crazy.
where that starts and all the different steps. So we wouldn't have data and AI if we didn't have chips, if we didn't have, fiber optic cables, if we didn't have all these physical elements, we wouldn't be able to have this to begin with. So I think this is to show you that like I read all sorts of random things, and this one gives you a perspective into something that I'm never exposed to in our industry, but it's more like manufacturing and materials. But our industry wouldn't exist without this. So
Yeah, I find it very fascinating that we basically we don't know how that stuff works, like chips and so on. Like,
no.
Could you explain this to somebody? I saw something yesterday from the comedian Ricky Gervais, who made The Office, and he also has Netflix stuff. And he said, like, he was asked if he went back in time 500 years, how would he convince people that he's from the future? How? Because we know nothing.
We can't build that.
No, we can't build that. How can we build that?
No. You would be amazed at the process behind like chips. It's wild, the science that is behind it, and like the nanotechnology that they have incorporated in chips and all these electronic devices. So if it's piqued anybody's interest, go check out the book Material World by Ed Conway, because you will have your mind blown by these processes.
Nice. Okay. I'm going to.
You might want to try.
I can't promise that I'm going to go through 100%, But I'm going to get it, and I'm going to.
Well, the good thing is also that it's like split. I told you it's 6 materials. So it's pretty much split into 6 sections. And each section details a little bit, that specific material. So the good thing is that you could even split it up, and just read little by little. Maybe 1 month you do the first element, the next month the next element. So you could it's an easy thing that you could like split up. You don't have to follow the entire story if you can't. But I do recommend it because this is the type of thing that like opens my mind to what's going on beyond our world. And this one, in the end, it links back to what everybody does, because no matter what you do, you can't live without all these physical things that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's in every car.
Yeah.
All these elements.
Yeah.
Like I'm driving electric, so no batteries. Without. It's like,
Well, there's even a part about, you wear glasses. I wear contacts, but you wear glasses. There's a part about creating like bifocal lenses. You wouldn't be able to see without that. When they invented that and they created that, the supply chain to build it, the productivity in the workforce shot up because all these people suddenly that couldn't see before, they could see and they could contribute to the workforce. So imagine these types of things that we just take for granted. But you wouldn't be able to do your job if you didn't have glasses, right? If you're like me, I'm like almost blind. So without glasses or contacts, I can't do anything. I can't see. So
yeah, I see this on my wife because my wife, she now has problems reading the screen. I always tell her like, get new glasses. No,
Yep.
no, it's fine, it's fine. And then lately she says, when I look at the distance, like into the distance, I can't see there as well. So then get these glasses. But she's very hesitant. Yeah. So maybe we're already. How long are we? We're already 45 minutes in. Let's try to jump off at the end with something that is practical for people. Like if somebody wants to get deeper into the whole data or AI topic, like what would you say to them? Where should they start? What's a good way?
Yeah, I guess it depends what they want to do. I mean, if they want to do data engineering, they got to go with you and your courses.
Thank you.
No, but if anybody wants to get into this, I mean, there's so many options to be able to do it. I think it wouldn't be surprising that I would recommend starting with some books. There's lots of good books out there. A really good one that I've been recommending to students is called The Business Case for AI by Kavita Ganesan. That's a really good one to get a strategic perspective. And then I would couple that with things like online courses, and then more focused on what exactly you want to dive into. And then with that as well, I always recommend people to follow thought leaders in the field. So on a platform like LinkedIn, I would recommend just following all the thought leaders within the data AI space, or if you want to specialize in something, if it's data analytics, if it's data engineering, you follow different thought leaders there and you just read what they post every day. Because this field changes a lot. There's a lot going on. One of the best ways to keep up with it is to see what are the thought leaders talking about? Like what are the leaders in this space actually concerned about and working on today? And that'll give you like a head start to understand what you need to be paying attention to and where the field is going. So I would say a mix of online courses, YouTube videos can go into that, of course, too, books, and then following the right thought leaders, staying up to date.
So basically, following you.
Or me. Yeah, they can follow me too on LinkedIn.
No, follow Christina. I think like you're posting a lot of cool stuff. I'm not the big commenter, but I see a lot of stuff.
That's okay. That's okay. And commenting takes a long time. It's important though. It's very important for networking.
True. But that's something I need to get better at. But it's not about me. Christina, thank you a lot for joining me on the podcast. We're going to put links to your LinkedIn, to the company page, and maybe something else that you tell me. We're going to put this in the description of the episode on YouTube and also on the podcast.
Okay.
And then. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, everybody can stay in touch with me on LinkedIn, and I hope they enjoy the episode.
Hope so too. Thanks,
Well,
Christina.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye.